Sneakers and Cleats, the podcast. Welcome back to the Sneakers and Cleats podcast. It is Monday. I'm still doing my paper thing. May 6th. This is episode 98. Don Harris, Chuck Miketinac, Matt Roy here. Thank you to everyone who is joining us live. Actually, our YouTube numbers are much higher
Shout out Tom Guerrero
than our download numbers, which are great. Tom is obviously leading that charge. Gentlemen, how are you this Monday?
Beautiful. Big day. Big day.
Big day. Wemby's going to be named the Rookie of the Year.
Big day. Rookie of the Year.
Probably. We don't know.
Oh, probably.
Big day because John Randall was in town.
True. Great golf tournament today.
Yeah, John Randall, big number 93. How was that this morning, Chuck?
Fantastic as always. Easily one of the top 10 interviews of all time and still does not disappoint.
Chuck likes to get his show, his 9 o'clock show going pretty early, but it's a 20 to 3 and he hasn't written a sentence because he was watching John Randall highlights and commercials.
Oh my gosh, those things still stand up today. They're still funny.
All right. Well, speaking of funny, we have a lot going on. We're going to talk about the thing that's taken over the internet, the live 3-hour Tom Brady Netflix roast, the greatest roast of all time, as it was dubbed. We're going to get into that. It was hilarious. It was cringy and crude and all those kinds of words, but it was really funny. We'll get into that. Plus, I want to ask these two guys
Shameful.
who you'd want to be roasted by. I think I have a list, so we'll see about that. Plus, as we alluded to earlier, it's the coronation of Victor Wembanyama, the Rookie of the Year, alleged Rookie of the Year. He will most likely be named tonight, so we'll put a bow on Wemby's Rookie Year. But first, as always, we start with the number game. It is number 98. There's some good players, not any superstars. I believe the only player in the NFL Hall of Fame who has actually worn the number 98 is Mike Ditka, and he's not known for wearing 98, obviously.
No, he wore 89.
He wore 89 for most of his career. He wore 98 for 1 year with the Eagles.
Okay.
I'm just saying.
He was number 89.
I know that. I'm just saying, I like to inform. Players I came up with, Jesse Armstead.
Texan.
Covered him in high school.
Yep.
The year before I came here, I worked for WBAP Radio in Dallas. I had 8 of their games that year. And I'll tell Chuck knows this too. When I ever talked to David Chancellor and other guys that love high school football, who's the greatest high school football player you ever saw in person up close? Top 3 for me, and I don't know what order, would be Jesse Armstead, Gerard Douglas, Johnny Manziel. They were all 3 so dominant. This guy at middle linebacker ran sideline to sideline, complete man among boys. It was the number 1 recruit in the country coming out of Dallas, Carter, and went to Miami. He'll always be number 1 to me because that's what he wore at Carter and at Miami. So I don't see him as 98, but boy, was he a great football player.
Plus Casey Hampton, Robert Mathis, Greg Ellis, Tony Siragusa. Can't go wrong with any of them, right,
Well,
Chuck?
You cannot, especially Casey Hampton, my guy.
What do you mean your guy?
I don't remember the year, but Texas was playing OU, Casey Hampton and Texas. It was a downpour. It was cold, and Texas got rolled. I don't know. It was like 68-10. And I couldn't believe that I had to stay for the whole second half of this football game outside.
Soaking wet.
It was terrible. And then after the game, I was, as I usually am, thinking about myself. And I asked Casey Hampton, were you guys just not prepared? I mean, how can this be a rivalry game and you guys, get rolled like this? And I thought he was going to rip my head off. What do you mean? We were prepared. And I was like, oh my God, wait, I should have, you wish you could reel back the question. And, I ran into Casey Hampton a couple other times after that. Always a pleasant guy, but boy, that was a valuable lesson for me to learn. Make sure that the filter is in place before the question comes out.
Was it in the steamy locker room or was that in the tent?
It was outside. Everything was outside.
Yeah.
I couldn't get out of that area quick enough.
Yeah.
Well, when I think of 98, I don't really think of those 2 players. I don't think of any players who wore 98. I think of the summer of 98 and the battle that brought baseball back between Mark McGwire and Sammy Sosa. When I think of 1998, I think of that and the revival of baseball after the strike-shortened season a few years before. They were still struggling to get their audience back, and there was nothing that brought it back like Mark McGwire and Sammy Sosa.
Nothing like Winstrol or whatever that steroid was.
Something.
There's a good documentary, too,
allegedly
on those guys, but Chuck, you're our baseball guy.
That was fun. That was
what
a
is
fun
that-
year.
Is that about accurate that brought baseball back to the forefront?
I don't know because I never felt like baseball had left. I know it probably had for some.
It
You're
had
in-
left
you're
for
in-
everybody but Chuck.
You're in the minority there.
Weren't they
I have a
cutting into,
forgiving
weren't they
heart,
cutting into
Matthew.
TV shows and like with
Yeah.
updates? Yeah.
They would cut in for at bats from Mark and Sammy Sosa.
By the
Obviously.
way, what happened to Sammy Sosa?
He's big now.
No, he's Michael Jackson, right?
What?
He's changed his face.
Oh, did he? I have no
Yeah,
idea.
he played with the Rangers at the end of his career. Again, both those guys pleasant to be around. So that was a very captivating summer to say.
But
the
yeah, I
least.
mean that's what I think about when I think of 1998. I'm just like, God, that summer was something that was stuff of legend, and then it comes out that all those guys cheated.
They inspired Barry Bonds to go hard on the roids that next fall.
Yeah, and have a hat size a couple of sizes bigger a little bit later. I also think of the first Super Bowl that my Denver Broncos won over Chuck's Packers in 1998, January 25th, 1998. John Elway finally breaks through.
Was that the spinner helicopter?
That was the helicopter game. He didn't get into the end zone on that, but helicopter down to about the 4 yard line.
Yeah.
Got a first down, ended up going in to score. They ended up winning by 7 as 11-point underdogs.
Yes, and I just remember Ron Wolf, the Packers GM, famously, because he was annoyed all week about talk of a dynasty, and he just went dynasty, and then he went off on the whole team because that was a pathetic second half and really an embarrassing fourth quarter where they ran out of gas. The defense did.
I don't remember. Was that the Terrell Davis migraine game, or was that the year after?
No, I think it was the Terrell Davis.
Yeah, when he
migraine
couldn't even see in the second half, and he was in.
Could have fooled everybody.
Well, Shanahan was like, I don't care if you can see. We need you out there just at least to be a distraction or a diversion because they're not going to respect our run game if you're not out there. So
imagine that. You
I
think
know.
of guys who do that today? No, you got guys missing playoff games in the NBA.
Right. But
How old was Kawhi Leonard in 1998? Maybe that inspired him.
I don't know, 2. What year was Kawhi born? Anyway, the MVP ended up being Terrell Davis. Got John Elway his first Super Bowl. This one's for John from Pat Bolin. So
This one's
for
John.
And then it was nice in 2015 or 2016 technically when they won, and John Elway was like, "This one's for Pat." Yeah,
Yes,
fun memories.
and of course, the Falcons had an arrest the night before the game because a player was out.
That's the next year.
No, that was the Falcons Broncos Super Bowl.
Yeah, that's
in fact, it was a former Packer that got arrested.
That's 99 though, because the Broncos
Yes.
went back to back.
Yeah.
Yes, the second time.
The
We'll talk-
safety.
so
the
talk about
It's a
that.
major distraction for the Falcons going
He was
into
a
that Super Bowl.
safety.
Yes,
I'll talk about that on Thursday.
What was his name?
it's going to drive me crazy.
Gosh.
Robinson? Something
Yes,
Robinson?
Eugene Robinson.
Eugene Robinson.
There you go.
Nice.
Eugene Robinson has wife and kids in a hotel room and went out with a lady of the evening and got arrested.
Well, more
story.
More of that to come on Thursday for episode 99. Basketball that year, the
How about
Bulls.
us pulling that out?
Bulls
Teamwork.
Mind meld.
Teamwork. Working together.
Teamwork.
Working together.
I'm just gonna
Don't be like Kobe.
I'm gonna mute their mics. This is what happens when you work with 2 older people. They just
Hey,
coming out of nowhere.
There's no ageism here.
That's right.
That ageism was
I'm
the least.
offended.
Ageism was the least.
Going
of the
to
issues
HR.
Going on the roast.
Going to HR.
They call it whiz.
All right,
Dumb
basketball
for a
time.
reason.
Bulls defeated the Jazz in a 4-2 series. That year was the end of the second three-peat, the last of the Jordan and Bulls championships.
Can I tell you a funny story about Brian? What was his name?
If you don't know his name,
The guy
then you
that
can.
got pushed off. Jordan kind of pushed off to hit the
Oh,
shot. Brian Byron.
Yes.
Oh man!
All right, tell me a story about Brian Byron.
Look up his name while I tell you the story.
All right, there you
Byron Russell?
Byron Russell. Byron, don't call me Brian because even though I spell with a R-Y. Okay, so I'm in Las Vegas at the NBA All-Star game. And I get in the elevator, and in the elevator is Byron, don't call me Brian Russell from the Utah Jazz, and 4 or 5 of his buddies. And Russell goes, "Hey, man." And as the door shuts, and I get in with all of them, and it's like 4 groupie guys. "Hey, man, you're that guy. Aren't you that guy?" And I was like, "What?" No. He goes, "Yeah, man, that guy, Joey Buttafuoco." He goes, and I go, "No, I'm not Jody Buttafuoco." Buttafuoco. He goes, "You look just like Joey Buttafuoco," which was, I thought, an insult, right? So the door opens, and they're all laughing at my expense. Ha ha ha. The door opens. They step out, and as they're walking away, I said, "Hey, Brian," or whatever his name is, Byron. It's Brian, right?
It's Byron Russell, isn't it?
I'm looking at Joey Buttafuoco. So
Anyway,
it doesn't matter.
He says,
Proceed.
I said, "Hey, Brian," and he turns around, and I just held the Jordan pose.
you do kind of look like Joey Buttafuoco. It's not that like it's not very close, but it's not that bad. Not
So
now.
I just held the Jordan pose, and his buddies all broke up laughing at him as the door closed. So I kind of got the last word in, but
Good story.
I offended him. He offended me.
So that year, it
Tit
also
for
was
tat.
Tim Duncan's rookie year. They ended up losing to the Jazz in the second round of the playoffs. And 1998, Tim Duncan was the last NBA player to be named the first All-NBA team in his rookie season.
Yeah, very impressive.
Very impressive. He also won the Rookie of the Year that year. Yankees also swept
Was
the Padres
not
to win
unanimous though.
the
It's
World
ridiculous.
Series. And Cal Ripken Jr. ended his consecutive game streak of 2,632 games in 1998. First time in 16 years not being in the lineup after starting in 1982.
2 shows in a row where we had a Cal Ripken reference.
We should reference him every year
You
because
can't,
that's
you
never going
can't
to get
tell your
broken.
Cal
So.
Ripken story, can you? It's too like legal.
Yeah, only because it's so far out there that nobody would believe it anyway.
I don't know. There's a lot of people.
I don't
that-
know. We're about to get to the roast
Go
here in
ahead.
a little bit, so
Yeah,
you can
let me
tell us your
contemplate
Cal
that.
story.
We might. Chuck
Hey,
might
maybe
get
we'll
sued
reference
for
him again
libel,
on Thursday, and you can give us your
Because
Cal story
It
then.
could be urban legend or it could be a true story.
It's probably, if I had to guess, urban legend, but it's a damn fine story.
It is a fine story.
I see that
Hey,
you
we-
have a comment from Jordan Elder up there.
We've got a comment from Jordan Elder. First of all, she said, "Hi, guys."
Hello,
Hi,
Jordan.
Then she says, when Wemby first got drafted, there was a lot of talk about him getting Rookie of the Year. Everyone was pretty cautious at the time. But now that we're here, what would the impact be for San Antonio if he does get that honor?
I think everybody's expecting him to get the honor.
Yeah, we were just about to get to that, Jordan.
Hey, watch it.
Headline stealer.
Yeah, Jordan Roy, as she's commonly
He's
known
going to
as.
win it, and I don't think it's going to be major wave. I think because everybody's expecting it, but I do think it's time. It gives us a moment to reflect, to think that there's no way that this guy could have lived up to the expectations, and not only did he exceeded them
Yeah,
with like the greatest history prospect in the history of professional sport and all of that kind of stuff. He did.
I think it's the worst kept secret, obviously, that he's going to win tonight. It's the only question is how much he's going to win by. Is it going to be unanimous, or is Chet going to get a couple of
They
votes?
already have the T-shirt in the Spurs.
Yeah, I'm sure they do, because like he's a minus 4,000 favorite. He's going to win tonight, but I think that's a good point. Coming in, he was pegged to be the best prospect ever, and I think he lived up to a lot of it. But sometimes I feel like we're putting too much weight onto a 19-year-old, 20-year-old shoulders at this point. And I feel like Chuck shares that same sentiment, as you've said previous times on the pod.
Yeah, but again, if he wins Rookie of the Year, then I would think that, to Don's point, he's exceeded, maybe not exceeded, but at least risen to the same level of what the hype was coming in. I mean, you can't do much more than win Rookie of the Year, your first foray into
Right.
the NBA, especially in this day and age where no rookies win many awards past that. So, given what his ceiling probably was, I'd have to say it was a pretty darn fine first
He's
year.
going to be first team all defense.
He's going to be first team all defense. He might make third team all NBA. He
Maybe.
probably won't win defensive player of the year. That's going to go to Rudy Gobert. He'll probably get second place in that. If I was to tell you, Don, coming into this year, all of these accolades that Wemby was going to get, but the Spurs were going to go 20 and
I
62
didn't see that
or
coming.
22 and 62. Which of those things would have surprised you more?
The record is the biggest surprise. The fact that they weren't better. And I understand it now, the experimentation with Sohan, sticking with it for so long. That led to the 18-game losing streak and all of that. But you look at them now, if the season started today, I think they would be that 40-win team that we predicted. I thought it would happen faster. The record is the biggest surprise. I'm not surprised that he put up 20 and 10. That wouldn't have surprised me. I'm kind of surprised that he led the league in block shots by a full point, and that he would be first team all NBA, all defense, that would surprise me.
Do either of you think that the record that the Spurs had takes away from the phenomenal rookie season that he did have individually?
I think in some ways, yes. I think that's fair. I mean, if you would have told me at the beginning of the year that they would have the exact same record as they had the year before with Victor Wembanyama on the team being relatively healthy, yeah, I would be surprised. And I think it does to some degree because it is a team sport, although what he's getting today more than likely is, obviously it's an individual award.
Yes, I see why it would take away. I've heard guys like Barkley and others say, "Hey, they only won 12 games, they won 20 games. Doesn't matter." I get it, and that's very fair. But having watched him all season long and watched his progression and improvement, and understanding why they lost because of other factors, and the fact that he was on a 20 minutes restriction for most of the season. Once you understand the full picture, man, I on the 22-win team, I probably watched more minutes of regular season basketball because I couldn't take my eyes off the guy. And that's what made it fun. I didn't care if they won or lost. I really didn't. I didn't care about the record. I didn't care if they made the playoffs. I was tuning in to watch this unbelievable guy do stuff I'd never seen.
But if I was to tell you at the beginning of the season, this is just taking Wemby's season as separately. These were going to be his accolades. He was going to put up these stat lines. He was going to win Rookie of the Year. He was going to be second defensive player, yada, yada, yada. If I was to tell you all of that, would you say that exceeded or did not exceed your expectations for his year individually?
He exceeded my expectations as a rookie.
And what does that say about the player that he is when the expectations upon him at the beginning were as high as they were?
Yeah, no, that's what I said at the beginning. It's fantastic. He's only going to get better too. Think about that. 20, 10, and 4 blocks is going to be his floor.
Yeah.
So where's he going for? Look at the progression that Anthony Edwards has made. Look at the progression that a lot of these rookies have they're now playing great basketball have made. Nikola Jokic, Jamal Murray, Paolo Banchero, they're fantastic.
He's phenomenal.
Yesterday.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, look at the progression that those guys make in year 2 to year 3 to year 4. We're in for something special.
Chuck, why do you think it is so many times the whole narrative this week is Ant MJ? Is Ant the new one? Or is he the chosen one? Why do you think we're, as NBA fans, as NBA media, as people that live and die with the game, we're always so fast nowadays to try and crown the next one or the new one?
I don't know. It just seems like there's a narrative or a push by somebody. It starts something and then everybody feels like they've got to get in and, have a say one way or the other on who it is that's, the quote unquote next great thing. I mean, I'm having a hard time figuring out why Tom Brady, all of a sudden it's everywhere you go. It's Tom Brady, Tom Brady, Tom Brady. Then you have the Netflix thing. So I don't know. I mean, that's an interesting question. I don't know that I have the answer to it.
It just feels like every time since MJ, everyone's looking for the next MJ or everyone's looking for the next Kobe or the next LeBron. Like, why are we not just taking players in their careers as they come to us and trying to project so far forward?
Yeah, and it changes, right? Because you can be really that guy for a year, get injured, and then it's somebody else because you're sitting on the sidelines like Kawhi.
Yeah.
Although I love Anthony Edwards.
There's nothing to not love about him.
He's so fun to watch.
He is, but that's actually a good point.
I love Halliburton. I love Halliburton and I love Maxey.
But that's a good point though, because last year, or let's call it a year and a half ago, the next one was Ja Morant. Look what happens with him. And now you have Ant come in and nobody even remembers who Ja Morant is anymore. And so next year when Ja comes back, everyone's going to rediscover him. And then we're going to anoint him again if he comes back at 90% of what he was. So it's just interesting to me to see if you're in the limelight, then everyone's so quick to try and crown you, but as soon as you fall off, they're so quick to discard you as well.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's an interesting proposition. It's the the Jeremy Lin thing. I mean, again, that's a prime example of you see all of a sudden you have to have a take that he's the greatest thing since Steve Nash and he has a great run, and then all of a sudden it's like he's good, but is he really the next Steve Nash? I mean, we live in a day and age where it was longer than a week.
Insanity.
What did he have? A week, 2 weeks?
In a little while.
A month?
And it was funny because that whole story was like, I swear, I'm not jumping in on this. I don't care. I mean, I'm glad he's playing great, but it's New York. Why should I care? And then his agent, Roger Montgomery, lives in San Antonio. It's like, oh, there's a San Antonio connection to this.
Before we move on,
Hey,
to
let me speak real fast.
Yeah.
You know, it's really hard to get a star, right? It's really hard to get a superstar unless you draft them. Everybody's talking about Devin Booker or Darius Garland or
Please,
Trae
Devin
Young or whatever. But think about this. The gettable star, maybe, would be Ja Morant. You know, the gun thing in Memphis, he's been injured. He's kind of worn out his welcome. Maybe Memphis is tiring of him. Maybe he needs a fresh start. Wouldn't that be something?
It would be. And I've said it a million times. That's one guy I would pay hard-earned cash to watch play ball. I like watching him play ball.
Ja Morant.
I can't speak to him as I don't know who the young man is as a guy, but yeah.
Doesn't he just remind you of like a really young Russell Westbrook? The reckless abandon that he plays with, the all out everything. He's a better shooter than Russ is.
He can really shoot.
He just goes all out for every single play.
I don't think they'd give him up, but you can wish.
Well, I mean, they have Jaren Jackson now, so they got another
but you need
team.
more than just Jaren Jackson on that team.
Bob, before we move to the roast of Tom Brady, you want to any comments, questions?
Hey, just going back to Wemby, Steve Graham says, lame. Pop held him out and made sure this year was Tank 2.0! Exclamation point, exclamation point, exclamation point, exclamation point.
Don, you want to?
What's the guy's name?
Steve Graham. I think he was in Foreigner.
Steve Graham.
I want to know what love is.
Yeah, they held him out because they didn't want the young superstar to get injured more because he twisted his ankle. Right around Christmas, right?
Yeah, I mean, only they know what the injury situation was. But again,
he had 3 ankle sprains during the season, and anybody that knows big guys knows. And if you know Victor and his staff, what he does with the exercises,
his ankles and
with his ankles and feet, because. Look, Bill Walton played in 400 games because of 6-foot surgeries, and Greg Oden and
Yao Ming,
all and on and on. You got to be careful with big guys' feet. He wears a 22, so
there's a lot to hurt.
Yes,
there's a lot to. He picks up tennis balls every single day with his toes and does all these exercises for his feet.
He's an alien. Any more right now, Bob?
Got to be careful.
Good. We're good. All right. So the roast of Tom Brady. We were all here yesterday, working. Most of us late. And somehow, some way, I still am a sicko, and I went home at 11:30, turned on the roast of Tom Brady, and I was up till 3 a.m. because I was so endlessly entertained by this stupid thing. But it was so good.
It was funny.
It was crude.
It was awful. It was so awful. Filth. Just filthy. But funny. There were some good one-liners.
Chuck.
Well, I mean, I said, you know what? I hope I see enough of this on Twitter that I'll get my fill of it. And the first couple things I saw, like somebody ripped on Gronk for, his work on TV, and that was kind of funny. And there were a couple other things I thought, okay, this is pretty funny. Maybe not my cup of tea, but then there was some stuff I saw when I got home late that got a little dark. I mean,
it was
cracking 9/11 jokes and
Aaron Hernandez jokes.
Yeah, I mean, it was a little much. Like there was a lot of. The use of the F word was thrown around pretty loosely. I'm willing to concede though that I am getting older and maybe a little bit more. Come on, we could be more clever than less cute.
I was looking through last night. Like I knew that we were probably going to talk about this today, and so while I was listening last night, I was like, oh, what are maybe a good couple of bites that I could play on the pod? Because there wasn't very many that I could play. Because it was just so, it was either it was an offensive joke, which I'm glad that nobody took offense to, really, at least on the dais. But
I think one of the funnier, cleaner jokes was when Nikki Glaser made fun of Tom Brady for losing $30 million in crypto, and she's like, even Gronk said,
"Yeah, that was the best one."
Me know that not real money.
Broadcast rights be damned. I believe we're allowed to play. What's on what Netflix has posted on their social media account. So I've kind of compiled those. Let's listen to about a minute of the Netflix roast last night, starting with Bill Belichick.
Gronk, I've been watching you on Fox NFL Sunday, and I'm begging you, please, Stop doing your job. Do another job. Do somebody else's job.
You have 7 rings. Well, 8 now that Giselle gave hers back, but I just want to.
Who's laughing now, Tom? Not you, because your face can't move and you don't have a sense of humor.
I want to say this is the greatest coach in the history of the game that did what no one else has done. And having Tom Brady and him was the greatest honor the good Lord gave me. So, here. Right there. A black man made that happen.
That was the roast last night. I thought it was right. Best roaster. She was phenomenal.
Great comedic timing.
To get a standing ovation with that crowd in the Forum in LA with that cast of characters up there,
Yeah,
unbelievable.
she was good.
So she was the best one. If so, and I think she's only like 20 minutes into a 3-hour special. So if you guys do want to check out some of it, Nikki Glazer was fantastic.
yeah,
Don't
she
do it
said,
with your kids around.
Don't do it with your kids
Oh
around.
no! I like
But-
one of her quick one. It wasn't even a joke. It was just she was wrapping up, and she goes, "I do want to keep this Kevin Hart."
Yeah.
And, you know,
Yeah, it's just like it's the little one-liners that were so good. But
she had a
anyway,
million of them.
so Belichick was also fantastic, but my favorite part of the whole thing was Kraft, Brady, Belichick. There's been so much written and said and documented about their relationship and how it eroded and how
Oh,
they
hate
don't
each
and how
other.
they don't like each other and how they hate each other and all of these things. But to see all of them in that group setting, kind of poking fun at one another, making jokes about how much of a hard ass Bill is and how much of a pretty boy and maybe gay or whatever that Tom is and how old Kraft is. Like, I thought that was almost healing through laughter.
Yeah, I think they still have those bitter feelings, but I think they're all willing to put things aside for a certain night or whatever. They do, and you can see it in the documentary with Tom Brady at Apple TV.
You mean the roast of Bill Belichick?
Yeah, that Tom starts to cry at the very end when talking about, like, he still believes that he was right and Belichick was wrong, and he doesn't like Belichick and all that, but they do appreciate what they accomplished together, and it's meaningful.
What do they disagree about?
Oh, well,
You say
you got how many hours you got?
Yeah.
They
There's a 10-part
disagreed
documentary on
over.
that.
They disagreed over, for one, Tom Brady's Alex Guerrero personal trainer being on the staff. Belichick fired him.
A lot
That
of
was-
jokes about that too.
A lot of jokes about that. That was the beginning of Belichick losing control of the organization with his own training staff and stuff. When Brady told Kraft, "I'm bringing in my own guy," Kraft told Belichick he's bringing his own guy. So that separated them, and then it went downhill from there.
Chuck, what do you think of having like all of them there? You have them taking shots together, kind of healing through laughter, and like, what was it like almost seeing those people who in a dynasty as big as the Patriots, you see stoic, legendary figures now just joking and laughing about it?
I don't know, because again, I only saw some of the stuff that was on my Twitter feed that
Right.
ended up coming down. I just wonder how this is going to age.
Well,
Which is when I see something like this,
Yeah.
it's because so many of these roasts don't age very well. And, as time passes, maybe some of the stuff that was said tonight was humor, cloaked in, reality or whatever it was that they were doing. Or maybe it was just everybody's getting a gag and we want to look like we're getting along. But
I think there was a lot of truth in a lot of those.
there was a
shows.
lot of truth to a lot of jokes, but I really liked that it didn't seem that anybody was offended
Hurt,
by it.
yeah.
Offended or hurt by it. Like there was some crude like jokes that'll get you thrown off air forever. Like cancel culture could be coming for all of these guys for
yeah, I don't think so.
for
I
a
mean,
while. But I think that was the point of it. It was 3 hours of poking fun at all of these former Patriots: Belichick, Edelman, Gronk, Randy Moss for not having a Super Bowl ring, like all of these guys that could be offended by a lot of things. And then you just had them ripping on one another for 3 hours, and it was hilarious and it was
best-
done
The
like that.
best Randy Moss joke was somebody said Randy Moss came to this thing looking like Bagger Vance.
Yeah.
Everybody was dressed in like black tuxes with black shirts, and he had like a brown plaid
It wasn't good.
Wool
Yeah, I mean, I guess
sweater.
the whole thing though, like the repeated Aaron Hernandez jokes.
Oh, that was bad.
I mean, again, it's just going to be interesting to see because I don't know. I didn't see a whole lot today. Did you guys see like major pundits talk about what went on last night?
Yeah.
Did Stephen A. Rip? Did he
I don't
say
know if
anything, or did
I think that
Adam Schefter? Did everybody weigh in on what they saw and what was the overall feeling?
the general consensus was kind of mine as well, which was it was nice to see everybody show up and have a good time and not really take offense to anything, because there were some bad jokes. There was Aaron Hernandez jokes. Tom Brady probably made the most offensive joke of the night with the 9/11 joke that he made, saying that 2 Jets knocked out Drew Bledsoe.
Yeah.
That was probably the worst joke of the night, in my opinion, because you just never joke about 9/11. But I thought that it was tastefully done, and I thought that most of them,
What?
Tastefully.
There was nothing tasteful about
I
it.
thought it was tastefully done in the structure of the event. Some of the jokes were not tasteful.
What?
I would.
I wish this was like wide open. I could start using some of the words that were used, and I don't think they were tasteful.
I don't think that some of them were not tasteful. I just thought it was nice to see everyone there having one of these roasts, which kind of went away for a while. We got rid of roasts like 6 or 7 years ago when cancel culture started becoming a real thing, because people were saying outlandish crap that got them canceled. And so now you have this, and I don't think that this is going to have that same effect, because it's one of those people that you're roasting that nobody likes anyway.
Yeah, I thought it was fascinating too, like watching these guys do their thing. That, for all the talk of Brady over Peyton Manning as players, man, Brady doesn't have anything on the charisma scale when it comes to timing and everything else that Peyton Manning has.
Peyton is much more of a comedian.
So what
Without a
would,
doubt.
what would the Tim Duncan version of a roast be like?
Man,
Can you
I don't
roast
think-
Tim Duncan?
I think that would be like a 5-minute TikTok video.
Would you guys want to be roasted?
No.
No.
I feel like I'm really easy to roast. I would be roasted. I don't care.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't want to be.
If you were to pick one person to roast you, though, last thing before we get out of here, who would you want to host your roast?
Probably David Chancellor.
I think David would do a great job with yours.
Yeah, he knows me better than anybody.
Chuck, who would you want to host your roast?
Jeez,
I have
don't even
I have
know.
one for you.
All right, go ahead.
Jack Green.
Okay, well, that would be fair. That might be
Can
one.
you see Jack?
That'd be like a
as a
10-part
host?
series. Yes, I
He
could.
would get up and go, stupid. What are we doing here? This is stupid.
He wouldn't be wrong if that's what actually was coming to pass.
He's
He'll
never
say there's a
wrong.
high school baseball game down the street. I'm going to go do that instead. I think Jordan would host my roast. There's no one else.
She'd be fantastic at
She
it.
would be. She roasts me all the time. Bob, any questions before we get out of here?
There's one I don't even understand by Olga. Send him back. He's a joke.
All right. Well, then on that note, we're out of here. I hope that's not about Wemby, because she's dead wrong if it's that. That's all we got for you today on the Sneakers and Cleats podcast. Remember to download, rate, review, subscribe, give us a 5-star rating, tell a friend, tell an enemy. Go watch the roast on Netflix if you
No.
are over 18 and can
No.
withstand a couple of jokes.
No, I'm
was-
I'm taking just the opposite. Don't watch it.
It was-
Don't watch it.
It was
Don't
really funny.
watch
Go
it.
watch it. I'm going to mute Don's
I'm
mic.
on the record.
If we were Matt's age, we would be saying the same exact.
Okay.
Oh, it was hilarious. Come on. All right.
I know I would at your age.
We're going to be right back
100%.
here on Thursday talking about everything that's happened this week. Until then, everyone have a good week.